This is the Fantasy Football Game Plan, where we talk about fantasy football and the NFL.
Hey, Scott, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing today?
Doing well because I got another win in my fantasy league. I had a very uncomfortable win. You know what those are like, where I'm back and forth with the guy that I'm playing, and things all of a sudden are looking really good. Except he's got T.J. Hawkinson on Monday Night Football. I've got like a 20-point lead, and of course, first quarter or very early in the game, Hawkinson catches a big touchdown, and they're going to him over and over again, and it was a real nail biter for me. I managed to eke it out 116.94 to 110.96, but I thought if Hawkinson catches another touchdown, even if it's garbage or whatever, I'm so done, and I eked it out.
You're lucky because they came out and they threw 3 passes to him right away. So you're lucky you're not in a PPR league because you would have been bounced out of your score easily with those production numbers. So I know because I was playing in my match. The person I was playing against on Monday had Aaron Rodgers and Hawkinson on the roster, but I already had 194 points going in, and she was only at 97. So no matter what kind of numbers they pulled up, I thought to myself on Sunday, there's no way those two people could get 100 points. He got close though, 144 to 194. So
yeah. Rodgers played well. The Packers seemed like they woke up.
Oh, they were playing whatever. They were playing. It doesn't matter. They were just playing a weaker team, and I don't know. Like golf, can't even hold a football. He fumbled like this. Ball's in his hand. Oh, the ball's not in his. Oh, ball's under center. Oh, ball's not under center. So the guy reinvented how to fumble. I think in that game, or just reinvented how to be a quarterback.
Well, it started raining. I noticed. I think it was around the third quarter, but it definitely changed the feel of the game from where I was sitting once that rain started coming down, and then sloppy things started to happen.
Yeah, it was coming down pretty hard. But regardless, we're professionals. I don't say my computer will break down on me when I go to work, and I still have to do this.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, this time of year, mostly there's a lot of indoor teams, and then there's teams playing in good weather that have outdoor stadiums. I'm looking at that Lamar Jackson performance against Kansas City, and I'm thinking that's great in September when the weather's good and the field isn't sloppy. But, he did it all, and good for him. He's an amazing talent. But once the snow starts to fall and the ground gets a little slipperier, I think it's going to be hard for Baltimore to keep playing like that.
Yeah, well, you just can't be one-dimensional. So, he's a fantastic athlete. We talked about it last week too. It's just the plays that he was pulling off, and I think his average was 9 yards a carry or 10 or something. So, but you do need to give it to the running back, Murray, a little bit more, and really depend on the people that should be taking hits to drop their shoulders and take the hits instead of the quarterback trying to drop a shoulder. And on a DB, that could have just put him out of the game. So, it's just the smarts of football. When it comes down to the end of the day, it's like you should be throwing the ball, not trying to run like a running back or go through the middle so much.
Yeah. I mean, the game-winning play to win the game was him just putting his head down and ramming it right up the gut. And I don't know. I always cringe when I see quarterbacks doing that right in the middle of the pile.
Yeah, it's okay. It's obviously quarterbacks are just tough or whatever, but at the same time too, your whole team is counting on one player. It's pretty easy to scheme as a defensive coordinator to try and prevent that. No matter how good of an athlete, somebody can stop that man from producing or whoever the quarterback of choice.
Yeah. So I thought I'd bring up some of the injuries because there's huge implications. You're laughing already.
Yeah.
I'm not going to start with them, but I'm going to start with Tyrod Taylor, quarterback injuries. So Tyrod Taylor looking really good, playing well, playing a good team, pulls a hammy running into the end zone. They play on Thursday this week. They've got a short week, and he is out. So they've got a guy named Davis Mills, because of course there's no other quarterbacks on Houston that can play. So Davis Mills, don't know anything about him. Don't like the look of this game for Houston being without Tyrod. And in case I get to mention it late, I forget to mention this later. I think if your defense has got a tough go this week, that Carolina defense, they are tough, and I think they're going to feast on Houston on Thursday. So if you need to pick up a D this week, seriously look at Carolina on Thursday against rookie QB.
Yeah, Carolina should be getting a lot of points. They have that. The receiving core should be seeing a lot of production. It should be, if you have any Carolina players, please go and grab them, or at least start them, because they're just going to get numbers after numbers.
Yeah, you're right about that. So apparently Ben's got a pulled pec muscle.
Yeah, but he got creamed.
Yeah,
there's no protection for that man whatsoever. Like poor guys, like 80 years old out there playing, 41 years old playing football, and no one's protecting him. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, you can't take that many hits in a game and walk away.
That O-line on that, the team overall has got a lot of talent, but not at the O-line.
2 years in a row. It's 2 years in a row now. So I have Harris on my team, and he did all right, but there was a lot of holding calls as well too that brought some things back, and touchdowns recalled. So that's big news.
Ben's not throwing the ball deep. He's not getting protected. They don't have a running game because their O-line is weak. So I'm worried about Pittsburgh.
And Deontay Johnson got injured in that game too. He caught a touchdown or caught a pass and hurt his thigh or something like that too. So good him.
Yeah, on the last play of the game, I think. And his status is in question coming up this week.
Yeah, well, they got some pretty good receivers, so anyone could fill in.
Yeah, well,
it's amazing he was catching balls, though. You were saying 3 weeks that he wasn't catching anything.
Oops, I dropped it. Used to be his nickname.
Yeah, and then yeah, exactly. So
Pittsburgh's one of those teams, and there's a few more teams I noticed that are emerging with multiple receivers that multiple guys that can do a lot of damage on any given Sunday. And it's getting hard in some situations to figure out, like, which receiver do you go with, or do you go with multiple from the same team? There's so many teams.
That multiple from the same team definitely looks like it's maybe a strategy going forward, because if you look at the Arizona Cardinals, like that's one team right there where you're looking at so many productive wide receivers. And, like Kirk didn't do anything this week except for put out some great blocks. However, that Moore guy ended up catching crazy passes. AJ Green was part of the game. Hopkins was definitely in there as well. So, like right there, like if you just had two of those players, you do all right. But, what's going to happen next week? Is it going to be the Belichick roll around where 1 week they show you one instance and the next week they show you another? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. We've only had 2 games, so it's not a huge sample size, but it's kind of becoming a theme. I made a list of teams off the top of my head that I could see that have got multiple receivers that seem startable each week. Arizona, all the guys you listed there, Kirk and Rondell Moore and Hopkins and, even AJ Green got a touchdown. Also, Minnesota has got a guy that I guess we'll talk about when we get to pickups for this week. KJ Osborne, he's pretty consistently getting a lot of targets, and he's the number 3 receiver on that team.
Yes. I actually have him highlighted in my spreadsheet right now for my draft as gray with a waiver on him. So
Yeah,
it's crazy that, I wouldn't pick this guy in the draft because he wasn't somebody that was a household name,
no,
but he's actually getting production like you're saying. And,
yeah,
if you're catching the ball 5 times in a PBR league, this is what you want, because now that equals out to more receiving yards than your opponent. So
yeah. Tampa Bay is another team. Like they've got Evans caught 2 touchdowns this week after not being really involved last week. And then I've got Jacksonville. No one's really established themselves there. I know Chenault got hurt this week, so that just opens it up for Chark and Jones Jr. and and then also Carolina, a team I know you often talk about. Anderson and Marshall. They've got multiple guys. They're throwing the ball to the tight end last week. There's so many teams emerging with multiple receivers that it's making my head spin trying to keep track of it all.
Yeah, the one team still out there that's like really undefined of like who really is the number 1 wide receiver, the Saints, as they are trickling away. Like I just don't know who to pick on that team.
Right.
So,
right. And Kamara's not catching, but he's not doing anything. And they've got the Patriots coming up this week. And the Patriots, what do? They take away your top guy. So if you're a Kamara owner, this has been a rough start to the year, and I'm not expecting much from him coming up this week either. Just to finish off with injuries, like we have to talk about it because it's I know injuries aren't funny, he said with a smile, but like what is going on with San Francisco? We spent so much time last week talking about, which San Francisco running back's going to take over. They all got hurt. Every single one. They are now combing the streets of San Francisco looking for people who can carry a football, and whoever they get, they're going to get injured. I made a list. So we talked about the most hurt running back, most hurt last time. So then Mitchell, we talked about spending a lot of fab money on Mitchell. Did you do it, by the way?
No, I pulled out.
Okay, good job.
I think I wagered. So in my league, you have $100 to spend throughout the whole year. So you can pick people up as free agents, let's say on like Friday or something, for free.
Yeah.
But if you want to get your skin in the game when everybody is getting hot, so you need to put up money.
Yeah.
And he went for $30, and I think I put an $8 bid on him, knowing that I would never, like, it was just sort of, I thought that my depth of bench was better than him. He was 1 day out of the gun running back, and there's other players I probably should have looked at to pick up last week, but I think I was just a little bit hesitant on putting my money down on a player like that. And, who knows, maybe the guy who picked him up is going to have budget for the rest of the season to spend, but, good on him. Maybe his running back wasn't, his core running backs weren't as strong as what he wanted to, but I never got him. I never stretched him though.
I couldn't believe it. So these guys are all hurt. Mostert, Sermon, Mitchell, Hasty. I don't know who else they have, but those guys are all injured. So maybe some of them can play. I don't know. I have no faith. I'm not going anywhere near that team and the running backs. They're jinxed. That's just forget it. Walk away. I mean, they kind of remind you of the Ravens.
Yeah, but at least Murray can run the ball.
Yeah, he can. But, now I'm hearing about Devontae Williams is going to be promoted. So I don't know how much, he's going to get, how much work he's going to get. But And is Lev Bell going to come to the picture? I don't know. I guess Latavius Murray is sort of the most solid pick because he's kind of the guy you'd want to go to by the goal line, right?
Yeah, he was doing those runs when he was at the time Oakland, and and obviously the Saints he had a back seat, but he did really well last year as a secondary replacement for Kamara.
Yeah. Yeah, he was also a Viking back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so just a few more injuries, just at a different position. So Jarvis Landry catches one ball and gets hurt, and now he's on IR for at least 3 weeks. We talked about Deontay Johnson, and then there's some other guys on that team that'll probably catch some balls. And Levis.
Yeah, but Sean, before you even go beyond, like Beckham Jr. is out too. So like, who's catching the ball for the Browns?
Well, I think Beckham's going to play this week, and there's a guy named Schultz on their team that's a speed burner that he didn't have a good game last time, but the first week he was all over the place.
What about Peoples-Jones? Has he had any production that you know of?
I saw him fumble. So, he had to catch it, but then he fumbled it away. So, I mean, I don't know who else they have. So, I mean, I'm sure he'll get a second chance, but it kind of makes the quarterback a little hesitant to go your way if you're not reliable. But they can't just run all the time. They have good tight ends on that team.
Yes, they do.
Right. So, Njoku is probably a good pickup for waivers because he might get a few balls. But yeah, I mean, it's a weird team. It's a good team, but they're not a good passing team at this point. I can't trust them.
I really do like the way that Nick Chubb runs the ball. His style points and running. He's just like a brick. He just runs like this. It's like, oh look, there's the hole. He's just like, it's like almost playing like Tecmo Bowl or like the shaky football game from the 60s. Like it just, there's no finesse. It's just like, look, I run. And then he does so well.
He's a good, hard one-cut runner. He breaks tackles, and he's got a great O-line, and he gets the ball a lot. So, yeah if you picked him up, good pickup. Way to go. Hang on to him.
Yeah, so anyway, so they're going to run the ball regardless, is my point. When it comes down to if they don't have the receivers, then it's a run game.
Yeah. So getting to waiver pickups, one guy we didn't mention getting injured was Andy Dalton for Chicago, but so that happened, and then Justin Fields looks like he's going to be playing a little more this week because a banged up Dalton is worse than a healthy Dalton, and the healthy Dalton wasn't that good.
Yeah, but I saw Fields. He threw like 2 picks, and he wasn't really that special. I don't know if he can do a full game. I would stay away from Fields.
Okay.
There's other quarterbacks out there in leagues that you could pick up. Teddy Bridgewater being one of them, and who else did a really good job?
Danny Dimes is, I think, this week for quarterbacks. He's the guy you want to go to. Daniel Jones from New York. He had 95 rushing yards last week.
And he didn't fall. He didn't fall this time when he ran for 45 for the end zone. I was like, is he going to trip? He didn't trip over his feet. That's amazing.
Yeah.
6 points.
Yeah. I would say he's the number 1 QB pickup.
What about Sam Darnold?
Yeah. Darnold and Bridgewater are still available in a lot of leagues. So both those guys are good. All those guys are good. But yeah, Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones from New York. That's the number 1 pickup.
Yeah, if you need a quarterback, but it's not bye week yet, so I think most people would either just keep him on his bench or whatever. Like there's probably 10 other quarterbacks or 12 other quarterbacks ahead of Daniel Jones that would do just fine this week.
Yeah, he's worth stashing. Like if you got Lamar and Lamar's going to keep running around and maybe get hurt, that's going to be a lot of points to try to replace. But that would be a guy to stash if Lamar is your starter.
Hey, talking about the Jets.
Yeah.
Barkley, like so high in the ratings to come into the season, and it's been 2 weeks and there's been very little production. I don't know, he was sitting in my draft like number 4th running back. We talked about it during the mock drafts. Why does he have so much clout? And it's been 2 weeks and I still haven't seen anything from the guy.
You're talking about the Giants running back Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he got injured. He had reconstructive knee surgery, and they were trying to ease him back into the lineup. He looks good, but they don't want to just give him the ball every play. They don't feel like he's all the way back yet. As the season
you got to win your weeks. It doesn't matter about having this guy that's going to be productive like at week 10. Like, you still got to win week 3. So do you start this man in week 3, or do you find someone like Singletary that's on, the Bears or something like that that will produce a little bit more, or Moss, or someone else that can do more productive work?
Singletary from Buffalo finally scored a touchdown. So yeah. Miracles are possible. I think Saquon Barkley is going to be a really good player if he stays healthy eventually this season. And it's a long season. But that's one of the reasons why I didn't draft him early, because I knew he was coming off this injury, and he didn't even have his first contact in practice until about 4 days before they played their first game. So they're easing him into it. But one running back I would seriously look at is Cordell Patterson. Cordell Patterson.
Is he even a running back? I thought he was a wide receiver.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, New England played him as a running back. I don't know.
I don't know how does fantasy work? You can start him at either position if his title is WR/B.
Yeah. Or flex. I mean, Davis, he's getting a lot of Davis's carries. So I think you have to see, and he's explosive. Like, he's a player that you have to look at. And the other thing is, I noticed that Atlanta has signed Wayne Gallman, who is a player you've talked about in the past. And that tells me they're not happy with Davis. Patterson's doing a good job of filling in, but keep your eye. If you got room on your bench to stash somebody, Gallman is a guy down the road that could emerge.
Yeah, I was also thinking, is there any possible chance at stashing somebody like Alexander Madison, considering that there was that scare this week with like Cook going down a little bit and then he came back in the game? Like, he does carry 40% of the football for the Vikings. And I'm just wondering if you also think that's a good.
Yeah, Madison should be on somebody's bench. I have Cook, and I've been, this is my 3rd year having Cook, and he's great. And every single game, at least once, but usually 2 or 3 times, I fear that Cook is out for the season. And he goes down and he stays down and he rolls around and he limps off like he's done for the year. And then he comes back out on the next series most of the times. But Madison's a good player, and if anything does happen to Cook, Madison will get tons of work. So he should be on somebody's bench. It's just, at this point in the season, having room to stash guys is tough. But yeah, you raise a good point, and he is a good guy to have on your team.
Okay, and I'm sorry for being jumpy around here, but you know what's crazy is that Gallman was actually a San Francisco before like the first week of the season.
Well, that is funny. Also,
and it was too crowded of a room, so then he flaked to what
Atlanta.
Yeah,
that's funny. They could use him now. Another guy that's similar to Madison that's really killing it is Tony Pollard. He's the backup for Dallas, but he is stealing a lot of Ezekiel Elliott's carries.
He is, and kind of going into watching preseason a little bit, you kind of saw that too, that he could have been a very stretched player that you could have got into like 16th or 15th round or something. He's probably picked up right now in most leagues because, if he's not, then definitely get him, because you could see that he's catching the ball, doing screenplays, doing bubble screenplays.
Yeah,
he's doing he's productive. He's working. It's almost like a split backfield now with Zeke and
Yeah, it's true. And if you didn't grab Sony Michel, grab him now, because Darrell Henderson is injured. He gets injured quite a lot. And Sony Michel is a good, solid player. He's probably going to start this week. So if you need a running back this week, grab him, because Henderson's injured and they got to play somebody, and they got Tampa.
And Henderson did a really great job over the weekend too. So that sucks.
Yeah, that's too bad for him.
Yeah, on the fourth quarter, there was less production. So
okay, so moving on to wide receivers that people need to look at on the waiver wire. I want to hear your best attempt, because I've been practicing and I haven't been able to do it. But one of the top pickups is Detroit receiver Quintez Cephas. Quintez Cephas.
Not worth it.
You don't like him?
No, it's great. He's good that he's getting more production. I think Detroit just stay away from their receiving core until there's something other than Hawkins and to throw and catch the ball. That's my opinion with Detroit.
Okay, I say stash Cephas. I think that they've got. I think he was looking for him often, and he made some big plays and threw to him in the end zone a couple times. He could have come down with another one. He almost had a great one-hander. He got one touchdown, but if things could have gone a different way, he could have had a huge game.
Yeah, but Golf also missed a couple of reads, and St. Brown was open a couple of times too. So is it the quarterback play? Maybe he likes Cephas for some reason. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I would suggest just there's other players to stretch for.
Well, you were talking about Rondell Moore. He's probably available in a lot of leagues.
You know what's funny about my league is that guy's been tossed around to 3 different people. Like, people are picking him up and dropping him and picking him up. Somebody spent $6 on him and dropped him because they wanted to pick up somebody else. And so at the beginning, I was thinking to myself, why is this guy getting so much attention? And so it really brought an eye to him. Now he's already picked up in my league, like I mentioned, like he's been dropped already twice and picked up 3 times. So
yeah, well, I think that's a great team that scores a lot of points, and you want to have, I wouldn't mind having 2 of those receivers. We talked about how they have multiple. So, he got targeted more than Hopkins this week. So if you have Hopkins, I would grab him too and play him as a flex or something. We talked about KJ Osborne from Minnesota. He's getting targets consistently. I know there's lots of receivers, but if you're needing one, especially if you have Jefferson or Thielen, you might want to look at handcuffing a receiver or playing this guy as a flex sometimes.
Yeah, but like you mentioned too, like Thielen is such a touchdown hog. Like, he's already sitting at 3 touchdowns already this year.
Yeah.
2. So in the red zone, are you trying to get catches or are you trying to get touchdowns? So if you have Thielen, basically put this guy up, but then, Jefferson is also catching a lot of balls. Good strategy to maybe have, but definitely that receiving core is kind of established.
So you have Sutton on the Broncos, right?
I do. I stretch for him, and my fantasy draft recap said, why would I go so high to pick this guy up?
And look what he is doing.
Well, it's just week 2, so let's see what happens. Like, Judy's not around, so
right.
So like he's getting a little bit more numbers, but let's see what happens. Keep going through the circle. So if Courtland Sutton is not taken in your league, grab him.
Yeah. And if you have Judy or you have Sutton, you might want to handcuff with Patrick, because he seems to be getting looks pretty consistently. And, if Sutton gets hurt, or if it takes a long time for Judy to come back, he could consistently, be doing well. I know they have Hamler on that team, but they seem to like Tim Patrick more.
Yeah. And that's another thing too, is stretching to, if you have one of those 2 receivers or 3, if you're including Judy in it, getting Bridgewater, because the person who's throwing the ball is also getting you numbers as well too. So that's definitely a strategy going in with that team for sure.
Yeah, get the double ups. One touchdown gives you twice as many points if you got the QB and the receiver. So just a couple more teams to look at because Chenault is hurt. If you're needing a receiver, I would say Jones Jr. is a guy to look at. I think he's their top receiver, and some people think that it's Chark, but I think Jones, I think the quarterback there trusts Trevor Lawrence trusts Jones, and he's looking to him a little more. And I would say going forward, he's someone to look at if you're desperate. Like if you have Jarvis Landry and he's on IR now, I'm not saying he's a top receiver, but I think he's pretty good. And I think that he'll get targeted more this upcoming week.
Great. I still don't have trust in Trevor Lawrence. So
okay.
Anyone on that team, I wouldn't pick.
I want to bring up Marshall again because I believe in him and I think he's going to be good on Carolina.
Yeah. There's definitely needs to be looks. He produced a lot during preseason.
Yeah.
And definitely someone to have on your bench.
Yeah. I mean, I think Ruggs is probably taken from Oakland. There we go. Las Vegas. Ruggs and Edwards are starting to get looks. The two wideouts there. I mean, it's usually Waller, Ruggs, Waller, Edwards. So keep your eyes open for those guys, especially if Waller, gets hurt. But those guys are starting to produce anyways. You're laughing. Why are you laughing?
I dropped Ruggs last week.
Okay, but he's playing well.
You know what? Remember I said something about Riley off Atlanta? I was like, he's 5'12" and 100 pounds soaking wet. I watched Ruggs play on Monday Night Football, and I looked at him and I was like, this guy is just too small. And even though he can catch and run, and he was number 1 draft pick 2 years ago, I just thought to myself that, it's going to be a while before this guy catches in a PPR league, like 5 balls a game. I need production out of my guys. I know one play at 70 yards could make me points, but I dropped him for that reason, that I don't think he's going to be catching the ball as much. And now fantasy and football can prove me wrong, but I think Edwards is a better receiver to go because he seems to be getting more passes than what Ruggs is seeing.
Okay. Well, Marquis Brown's pretty small for Baltimore, but he's having a better season this year.
He's also coming off a little bit of an injury too, so it's interesting to see how that's going to continue on. There was that guy in college last year. Remember, he was number 3 pick of the year. Went to Miami. Waddle,
yeah.
How's he doing?
Well, they don't have a quarterback. Tua got hurt.
That's right. That's right. They don't. He got creamed and he got a rib injury, and they don't know if it's magic to help them out.
Yeah. Well, I'm staying away from Miami receivers because I'm not sure if I trust Tua yet, and I don't trust Jacoby Brissett. So I'm not wanting any part of those guys. I have Gesicki as my backup tight end, and it's just a wash because there's no one to throw him the ball.
We talked about Miami's problems with wide receiver. Parker's out. Ersnow's on IR. Fuller's suspended for some reason or another.
He's coming back this week, but I'm not excited about that. I need to see it first.
Yeah, and then anyway, so their receiving room is just messed up, and then with not having Tua, I'm not even going to pronounce his last name. I think I heard on the commentary this weekend that the announcer was like, he even couldn't pronounce his last name. But I'm not even going to try that.
Okay, just call him Tua.
Yeah.
Okay, there's just one more receiver that I want to bring up. Sammy Watkins. He's not lighting it up, but he's pretty consistently catching the ball. So I think
Sean, that's the guy I dropped Riggs for. I picked up Watkins for dropped Riggs. I picked up Sammy.
Okay. Yeah, no, that could be a thing because they've got, Bateman still injured and Lamar Jackson needs some help. So he could be thrown to him.
I know, and that's what I was hoping. He's sitting on my bench, but
Okay.
I forgot to mention that last week when we were talking. That was my choice. Riggs for Michelle for $8, and then Sammy Watkins for like $4, and I got it for $4.
Okay. Those are good pickups. Well done, my friend. I haven't done any waivers yet. My team keeps winning, so I've been standing pat. I might go get Carolina defense for this week because my Tampa Bay defense is up against the Rams. I think that's going to be a high-scoring game, so I'm a little worried. I was combing the waiver wire for tight ends as we do, as you do. I did find a little nugget of hope. Something that I'm looking at is Dawson Knocks for Buffalo. He's often undrafted, currently the number 10 tight end in the NFL, getting consistent looks, got a touchdown catch last week. And, okay, I know Singletary scored a rushing touchdown, but was from really far away. Once they get down to the goal line, they're not really a running team. So that's where the tight end has some extra value. So I'm saying if you're super desperate like I am for a tight end, think about Dawson Knocks because I've got Jarvis Landry on IR this week. I got room on my roster. I'm probably going to pick him up and stash him or play him maybe even because I've got the Rams tight end and Tyler Higbee, and he didn't get any balls last week, or he got one. And then Jasecki's my other tight end. So I'm really starved for tight ends. And I'm going to give Dawson Knocks a try, I think.
Great. I'm going to stick with Higbee. I think he will be producing at some point. Just 1 game, 2 games, and there'll be some throws. If not, look out there. The tight ends are so tough. If you don't get the top 3, then top 4 now actually with Hawkinson really producing.
Yeah, Andrews was okay for Baltimore. He was okay. He wasn't great, but he was okay. And Kittle hasn't done anything this year.
But maybe that would change. Maybe the pass protect and throw the ball. But defenses maybe are just playing a little bit tighter.
Yeah, it's a wasteland out there unless you have Kelsey or Gronk. Holy cow, Gronk.
That's one person I was sleeping and not thinking. He was on the waivers. I think someone picked him up in free agency, so they didn't even put money on him. They picked him up. And I was like, and then for some reason, when I saw the transaction go through, I was like, oh, why didn't I do that? Note to self, if someone knows how to score a touchdown, pick him up. Gronk knows how to score touchdowns.
Oh, yeah. But does he ever? Okay. Anything else we need to get to before we go? We're not going to talk kickers. It's too early in the season to talk kickers.
Yeah. Kicker who? What?
All right. Carolina defense. Keep your eyes on Carolina defense this week. They might score 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Okay. So if anybody's got any questions, anything they want to bounce off us, go ahead and send us an email. We'll put the email up on the screen for you. And we're asking people to subscribe and support us. And we want to just keep this thing going. It's a lot of fun and we're picking up some momentum. And thanks for doing this with me, Scott.
Let's chat next week.
All right. Enjoy the games, everybody. See ya.
Thanks for watching the Fantasy Football Game Plan podcast. Need coaching on your lineup? Drop us a line and we'll discuss your dilemma.